Think of a world in which everything is given without receiving anything in return. The world of the mother who breastfeeds her child. We receive from Mother Earth everything we need to live. As Homo donans, we also give to others all the time. This is the essence of the paradigm of the matriarchal gift economy, but mercantilism hijacked the gift economy and turned it into the economy of exchange, of patriarchal capitalism, greed, invasions, and wars. This is Genevieve Vaughan, philosophy, our guest today on El Ágora, Conversations with Ángela. Over the years, she has developed her ideas in different communities that have managed to understand that it is possible to give, thinking only of supplying the needs of others. Dear friends, welcome to our program El Ágora, a conversation with Ángela. Today we have a very special guest. We have with us Genevieve Vaughan, who is speaking to us from Italy. Genevieve, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much, Ángela. Thank you for inviting me.
Jen, I am going to call you Jen because this is how I know you and how I know you from all this time. First of all, let's talk about your childhood.
I had a very nice childhood. I lived next to the sea in Texas, next to the Gulf of Mexico. I could look out my window and see the water, the bay, and listen to all of the storms and the sweet breezes and everything. And because back then we didn't have air conditioning, and it was a really nice place. And the next door, there was a vacant space. And I thought fairies lived there, so I went out to visit the fairies a lot. And my parents were very good to me, and I had a little brother, and I had really had a quite a wonderful childhood in nature, and also in a very pleasant house, a place to live.
Could you tell us about your parents?
Yeah, my mother was of Irish descent. Her ancestors were Irish and English, and she came from a small town called Beeville in Texas, BE, like the bees of the insects. And my father was from a Welsh ancestry, and he came from a little town called Greenville in Texas. So they were both small town people. And my mother was very proud of her Irish ancestry, and she talked about it a lot. And they were good people. My father was a lawyer. My mother was involved in some charitable projects and things, and she had been a very beautiful woman, or was at the time a very beautiful woman. And people said I looked like her, but I was never as pretty as she was. And it was really, I had a very nice childhood. And then we were kind of far out of town. Then when I was 11, we moved in closer to town, still near the water, which always was a great factor in my childhood. And there I got to have a whole lot more friends, young kids who were my friends, and we did a lot of good projects together. We organized a show with dogs and horses, and a sort of what would say a square dance kind of thing we did with the horses, and we invited a whole lot of people to come, and they had to pay for it too. We sold tickets, And my parents helped, and all the other kids' parents helped. So it was a really it was a wonderful project and a really good learning experience for a young girl. And then I had my parents decided that I should go away to boarding school. So I did that, and that was harder. And I was in a girls' boarding school. And then after that, I went to a girls' college. So I lived with for 8 years with women, with girls my age, and that was a really good experience in preparation for feminism. And then after that, after I got married, I had 3 daughters. So I have been a feminist from my life experience as well as my convictions. And my parents, as I said, were good people. We had a big family. There were lots of aunts and uncles and things that always had lots of problems that my mother tried to solve. And also we had some people in the family. For example, I had an uncle who was the head of a university. He was not a blood relative. He was my father's sister's husband. But that had a big influence on me too, because it made it seem that even I could have some kind of an academic career, or that it was kind of normal to do that. And so this was my childhood. I think it was a very positive childhood. My grandmother was very religious, my mother's mother. And after my grandfather died when I was 12, I think, she decided to go to Europe with a group of nuns and priests. And she invited me to go with her when I was just 12 years old. And that was a huge eye-opening experience also, to be able to travel to Italy and France. And we went to Holland because my uncle had gotten killed in the war, and we went to his graveyard in Belgium, and that's so we spent maybe 6 weeks in Europe. And I was it was an amazing thing to have happened to me as a little girl who was only 12, and my other friends in school had not done anything of that sort. So that already gave me a kind of an international approach, which I've always been grateful for. And in the end, I did marry an Italian and came to live in Italy for many years. And so maybe that early trip to Italy helped me to come and feel normal in marrying an Italian and living in Italy.
In which moment in your life, or in as a young woman, did you realize that you were going to dedicate yourself to the maternal gift economy?
Well, like I said, I realized my parents were having arguments, and I wondered why. And later, I also realized that some people were really poor, and we had a whole lot more than most people had. And so I began to wonder what was wrong in the world. And I thought about that a lot. And then after I went to college and studied, and I've tried to figure out what could I do. And finally, at a certain point, after I'd gotten married with an Italian philosophy and semiotics professor, and met some people that were discussing with him the application of Marx's ideas to language, I thought I saw a way of changing things through a different perspective, a different paradigm. And that's what I've been working on for the rest of my life.
You created a foundation for the compassionate society when you came back to the United States. How was the development of that foundation?
So I'm married an Italian and lived in Italy for 15 years, and I had 3 daughters. And then when then I got a divorce and came back to the United States. And at that time, I had a cousin who was a political woman. She had been in the Texas legislature, Texas state legislature, and she had done a lot in national politics as well. And she was a progressive person. And she and I got together to try to use the money that I had that I inherited from my grandfather and grandmother and my parents, and to use that for social change. And so she helped me to find groups to fund, and I did that. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to really try to promote the gift economy itself, because I had come up with the idea. I'd started writing about gift giving, or as the maternal normal way of being human. And so I decided to try to promote this idea through doing projects that were based on gifting rather than exchange. And so I did. I created several projects. For example, a sort of ranch near where I lived in Austin, and that had allowed women and some men to come and have free space for having their meetings and for doing various different projects. And then I did a lot of other projects for peace, and we had a peace caravan that went around and talked about anti-nuclear work and many different other things. And so I did that for about 20 years. And then after that, I had spent most of my money. And so I started mainly working on the ideas about the gift economy, that and wrote a book about it, in order to try to explain that it is really a different paradigm from the paradigm that comes from patriarchy and the market and capitalism. So that's what I've dedicated my life to doing. And I call that the maternal gift economy, because it is a free economy that I believe all of our values, basically our good values, come from that. And then the market and exchange and patriarchy contradict those values and turn us away from our original way of being, which I call homo donans, the giving being, rather than homo sapiens. Just we are the giving species. And so I think we've gotten ourselves confused, where we've been, for centuries, we've been living in the wrong way, because instead of basing our lives on satisfying needs, we've based them on trying just to get enough to get by, or to make huge amounts of money, each one more than the other. And that has created a terrible mountain of bad values that lead us to war and domination of one over the other. That's it.
This is definitely a different way of looking at the world and see how we can solve the great problems that humanity has. Jen, we are going to show you some photographs. Please tell us what you think about that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful picture of all of us in Norway at the Women's University there, when Berit Oz had that wonderful meeting in 2001, and that's where I met you. And you were dancing all night, I remember. Anyway, it was a great meeting, and I was very happy to meet a lot of those women, and many of them I still know, which is wonderful.
Do you think that this meeting of the Wise Women workshops in Lotte, Norway, where you met many women, changed in a way the direction of the maternal gift economy?
Well, it was a wonderful meeting to know all of these women from many different parts of the world. Although I had already met many international women because I'd lived in Italy and had a number of international feminist friends there, and I'd also traveled, and I'd also been in the US and met both national and international women there. It was good to know so many deeply feminist women that were along the same lines of feminism that I had learned in Italy. But my gift economy ideas were still the same. I had been developing those for 20 years at least and trying to practice them by then. So it was finding some sisters who I embraced and who embraced the gift economy idea, not a totally new group for me.
I am going to show you another photograph, and you tell me what you think about that.
Yeah. Yes, this is when we were on the peace boat. That's my cousin, Sissy Farrenthal. And she was the cousin that worked with me for all of that time, finding different projects to support and so on. And also she was with me in the foundation for a while, not all the time. And there we were on the peace boat.
I am going to show you a short video, and you tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, okay, that is the temple of Sekhmet that I had built in the Nevada desert near the nuclear test site and across the street from some big military bases. And let's see, I guess I can tell you how it went and what the reason was. When I'd just gotten married, I'd been married 2 or 3 years, and I hadn't had children yet, and I wanted to have children. I happened to go with my husband to Egypt, and we went to Luxor, and in that temple in Luxor, the guide showed us down in a room beneath the temple, there was this goddess that he said was the goddess of fertility. And if you made her a promise, like the Egyptian women did, then you would get pregnant. And so I wanted to get pregnant. And so I made her a promise that I would build her a temple. And so then I had to build her the temple because I got pregnant like the week after that happened, or the week after I made the promise. And so I waited many years before I actually did it. I didn't have the courage to do it when I got back to Italy and very soon. But once I got back to the United States, I was involved in the peace movement. And so when I went to protest at the nuclear test site in Nevada, I thought this is really the place to make a temple to the goddess who is the goddess of fertility, but really more than that, she's a goddess that takes a very strong stand. And so they say maybe she's a goddess of war, but I don't think she is. I think she's just a very assertive female lion who's able to take a stand and make her point. And so we built the temple. I had it built. I bought some land, then I gave the land back to the native people that were there before, the Shoshone, and they let us build this temple there. And it still exists, and people are going there all the time for ceremonies and festivals and so on. And the people that are in the peace movement stop there when they go to protest at the nuclear test site and around in that area. So that I had gotten involved in the goddess religion, the goddess spirituality, and I still am in that. And it's, I think, a good alternative to patriarchal religion.
It is also the culture of many goddesses, not just Sekhmet.
Yes, we did. We put a lot of goddess statues in there, as well as a wonderful big statue of Mother Earth, which was made by Marcia Gomez, a woman that worked with me back then, a wonderful sculptor and organizer. And she also did this statue of Sekhmet.
Do you think that the way that the development of the temple also leads you to the gift economy?
Well, yes. Well, we try to practice the gift economy there. Everything is free. But also, I think the goddess religion or spirituality, not really religion, but goddess spirituality, is very respectful of nature and the gifts of nature. And so the idea of the maternal gift economy, Mother Earth, and giving instead of exchanging, that is directly satisfying needs, is totally congruent with the goddess spirituality.
It is a fantastic idea, this possibility of looking at the world through the goddesses rather than through the patriarchal capitalism. Jen, what would you tell us about your theory of the gift economy?
Well, I would like to remind everybody that everyone is born from a mother. And if you don't get care by your mother, you don't survive. And mothers give to you directly, unilaterally, because babies don't understand exchange. They can't give you back an equivalent of what you've given to them. So they learn how to receive, and the mothers learn how to give. And that is also what happens even in the womb. There is a unilateral gift from the mother to the baby of satisfying the baby's needs through the body. Then it happens socially through the mother and the child, the mother nurturing the child. And that, I believe, is the basic human interaction. And that it has been complicated in all kinds of ways, because one person gives to another, another gives to another thing, or the same thing again, or you repeat the giving. And it is, what is actually, I call it, the basic structure of human interaction and communication. And I've written about language as based on gift giving and not on exchange. We're so used to thinking of exchange that is only I give in order to get back something, which is ego oriented, while giving is other oriented. It's based on the needs of the other person. You have to, if you're going to give to the other person, you have to understand what their needs are. You have to pay attention to them and understand their whole situation. But if you are just exchanging with them, you're really only looking at your own need. And this is a completely different logic from the gift logic and the exchange logic. And the one is other oriented. The gift logic is other oriented, and the exchange logic is ego oriented. And they bring us to two different kinds of actions. But right now, we have a gift economy that's sort of underground, that people do without recognizing what they're doing, or they call it goodness, but it's really structural. It's really makes us who we are, while the exchange economy contradicts that, and we look at it as the main motor of human life and of the economy. But what happens is that the exchange economy actually takes gifts from the gift economy, and even profit. If you look at that as surplus value that's taken from the workers, that's a gift that the workers are giving to the capitalist. It's forced, but for the capitalist, that's a gift. And so it is something that enhances the ego of the capitalist to be able to get these free gifts from so many people. And when I talk about the maternal gift economy, I'm talking about something that is both for women and men, because all children, boys and girls, have to be in the receiving end of the gift economy, and they have to have that model as the beginning of their lives. And so what has happened, I believe, is that for misunderstandings, we have thought that boys were not supposed to be gift giving as girls are. And instead, everybody is gift giving. And if we were to do that, then we wouldn't be having the terrible problems we're having. Well, wars are basically based on exchange. They're just, I do this to you, you do that to me, and I do this to you again. And what we need is a gift of understanding each other's needs and satisfying those, even at the international level, rather than terrible punishment of whoever has offended us. We need to understand the needs behind the offenses and satisfy those needs if we possibly can. So I think that there is a whole other philosophy that is underneath the Western philosophy. And I think that we just, as we are still inheriting the mindset and the ways of thinking that have gone on for hundreds of years in patriarchy and based on money and the market. And we need to do something very different, and we can have an example in the economies of indigenous people who didn't have markets and who had other ways of organizing society that were based on gifting, and still are. In many places, people, the indigenous people, don't want to give up their real ways of economy and community, because gifting creates community. And of course they don't, because it's a much better way of living and creating a happy society rather than our society that we have now that is so based on money and making more and more and huge amounts of money that are gifted to the capitalists from people who then become poorer and poorer. So, and we're now also in the midst of these wars that are based on exchange as well, and of taking rather than giving. So that is what I'm trying to talk about with the gift economy.
In this chaotic world of wars and genocide, how could the gift economy save the world?
Well, I think that the world of capitalism and wars and genocide makes everyone unhappy. It's harmful for everybody. It's harmful also for the planet, and we're destroying the planet. So we have arrived at a really crucial moment here, and we need to do something radically different. And if we can understand the world from the point of view of the maternal gift paradigm, then we can behave differently, and we can stop sort of automatically falling into those patterns of exchange, of do this, you give me this, or I will give you who knows what. Well, I think that we're at a very crucial moment of a radical change that we really need to have in order to survive as a species, which I believe that we are a maternal species, everybody, men and women, and that we need to restore that logic and that way of living in order to survive as a whole species, and together with the other species on the planet, and the whole planet herself, because we can see how negative and destructive the social order that we have now is, and how we have destroyed the environment, and we're hurting each other all the time. So we need to do something different, and that's becoming clearer and clearer, both with the environmental disaster and with the wars. For example, the genocidal war that Israel is perpetrating on Gaza. And this is not a humane or a human way of living. So we can do it differently, though. And I think that this moment in history shows us that we need something radically different. And I think that the maternal gift economy is the perspective, the different perspective that we need to take in order to understand the path that we have to take to save both humanity and the planet.
In this moment of your life, what is your dream, and how do you think we could put into practice the gift economy so that we can get to a different world?
Well, I think that it's as we change our perspective, if we begin to validate the gift economy rather than the market and capitalism, we will begin to know ourselves how to do things in a better way. So I don't really address things just piece by piece. I try to imagine, for example, a happy child 100 years from now, in a place where she might have been hurt and impoverished in the regular course of things. And that, by thinking about that, then I kind of think around what kinds of changes have to be made in order to make that child happy. And I think that as we proceed and people have different perspectives, a different perspective on all of the harm that's being done and get an idea of what we can do that's different, people will, in their local areas, figure out what they can do to make a transition towards an economy based on giving instead of an economy based on exchange. If we know what's wrong, we can do what's right. We can figure out what to do that's right. I believe humans are great. I believe we are really a wonderful species, but we're acting in a terrible way right now. And we have in our hands a fabulous planet. And so much, life is such a beautiful thing. And that we are destroying this is just crazy. I believe that we've driven ourselves crazy, really, in some ways. And that the sanity comes from this perspective of satisfying needs instead of getting more and more and more in order to dominate over other people and to feel like you're better than other people. So I know that now there are a number of different projects that people are doing to try to create gift economy, islands of gift economy. You have done one, Ángela, that is a very wonderful experiment. And now here in Italy, there are people that are doing them there's going to be a gift festival in about a month where they're going to have about 1,000 people going to do gifting with each other. And there are other smaller ones, and there are other people trying to create local gift economies. And there are many, there are many ecological villages and so forth that people are making they're not actually consciously based on the gift economy, but they don't recognize the maternal aspect of it, but they are trying to practice gifting. And so I think it's the ideas are kind of percolating up. And we just have to sort of put them together, create this movement, a world movement that has to be based on the maternal aspect, I believe, because otherwise people can't recognize how universal it actually is. We all have that model before us when we're children. Otherwise, we die, or the mother doesn't take care of us, or somebody doesn't mother us. It could be a man that mothers us, but somebody has to do that unilateral giving towards us, or we die. And that is the basis of the human being, like I said, of language, and I believe of many other things that we don't recognize as based on giving, because we've taken that model out of our lives because we think of it as childish, or we think of it as only due to mothers, or only supposed to be done by mothers of little children. But it's not the mothering that's weird, it's the exchange that's weird. And so we need to go back to that. And I think that would heal the human race. I think it would heal the human race. And we need to be healed, because I believe right now we're in the midst of a great pandemic of craziness that is destroying us.
What do you think is for you and for the future of the world your dream?
Well, I think that if we stopped, we would not have money, and we would probably have local groups with a local agriculture, and then we could have a lot of communication that we could use the internet for. And we could also travel from place to place. And we would have not any dominance of states over each other, or any world government that would dominate. We wouldn't have that whole issue of the patriarchal force over others. And we could kind of grow as gift givers from the bottom up. So this will take a lot of changes, also because right now our society is getting more and more mechanized and going towards AI, and where it's like we don't even believe in ourselves anymore. We need to have a machine or something to do it for us. And that is because we are being taught that we as humans are not good enough, and what we need is a machine instead of ourselves, and that we are not really a good species. We have to correct ourselves. Instead, we really are a good species. Beneath it all, we are a maternal species, and we have been impeded from being who we really are, because we've had this belief in money and exchange and patriarchy. So it's a whole undoing of one part of life and a bringing forward of the other part. But as I said, I believe that people who are doing that will then be able to know how to do it better, and how to create groups that do it with each other better. I mean, I'm from a world that is sick. When people begin to get healthier, they'll know better what to do.
Do you think that if women were in charge, would that change the world?
I do think so. I don't think that women should be in charge in a patriarchal way. So there's these logical contradictions there. But women should be in charge of the gifting and being the model, because we have that experience of mothering, in which we learn from our children how to mother, and they learn how to be mothered from us. And we need to take that universal experience and use it as the basis of things for now, until everybody gets that way of doing things and brings it forward, men too. And then at a certain point, when there really is equality according to the gift paradigm, then it doesn't matter whether it's men or women that are doing it. Although the women that have the actual experience of giving birth and nurturing their children, I think have an extra special capacity, or let's say ability, because they've been trained by that work that they've done. But men can do it too. So men can be trained too the same way.
Thank you, Jen. This has been a great conversation, and thank you so much for being with us in this program.
Thank you so much, Ángela.